and I shall have some peace there, for peace comes dropping slow. This is how D.H. Lawrence experiences his peace. Maybe this is possible for us. Maybe we don't have to worry or fear so much. Maybe even in a busy life. Maybe even with or without enough time. Because maybe it is just a matter of becoming aware and getting in touch with an ever-present, ever-available fundamental level of your being. And quite possibly, this fundamental level of being is intimately connected to your ability for perception. Perception is an instantaneous event. If you perceive fear, you are afraid. If you perceive peace, you are at peace. So maybe there is a way to disentangle the basic and simple experience of perception with the complex and seemingly difficult idea of perception. And then maybe, through this process of disentanglement, we will reach a fundamental level of being, a fundamental level of perception, and a fundamental level of peace. Perception as an idea may seem highly complex, but as an experience, so basic and ordinary that it speaks for itself. And it's true, perception as an idea is complex, but it doesn't have to be complicated. And maybe, when it's not so complicated, your basic experience of the world and even your basic perception of yourself simply speaks for itself. If we are able to disentangle the complexities of the idea of perception while connecting and associating the simplicities of the physical experience of perception, maybe then we could reach this fundamental level of perception, which is also where one's basic and fundamental sense of self is located. And then, once we link this fundamental level of perception with our fundamental sense of self, confidence, assuredness, and simplicity will be sure to speak for itself. So far, we have the idea of perception and the experience of perception. It is important to note that the duality of idea versus experience and mind versus body are similar. They are dualities, and both presuppose differentiation, which is diametrically opposed to unity or wholeness. And there again, unity versus differentiation, another duality. So now, the duality of the idea of perception versus the experience of perception. One being ideational or mind-based, and the other being experiential or physical and body-based. This leads us to the most complex aspect of perception, which, of course, is another duality: contextual perception versus pure perception. Contextual perception is differentiated perception, and pure perception is unified perception. These are close to the fundamental levels of perception that we are looking for, and are the levels of perception that our basic sense of self is grounded in. However, how are we to experience these fundamental levels if the complexities that seem natural to them are just too complicated? When things get too complicated, you need to simplify. And we need to simplify the ideas of contextual and pure perception by associating or linking our basic physical experiences of perception. We need to link our physical sense of vision, what we see, and our physical sense of audition, what we hear, to the ideational levels of perception that are experienced contextually or purely. This is a very complex psychological activity, but when fully understood and experienced, you will have potential access to the most basic and fundamental level of your being. This is the same fundamental level where peace resides. And as poet and author D.H. Lawrence identified a physical location where peace comes dropping slow, it can become a natural reality for you. And all of the fear-based responses, can then be dissolved and seen anew for what they really are: artificially manufactured and projected fantasies. For peace to drop slow, for us to experience the most fundamental and basic level of perception, we need to perform two parallel processes simultaneously. We need to both understand and experience. We need to understand perception and what we are doing when we perceive, as we experience perception. These two processes will then become one as we experience the understanding of perception and understand the experience of perception. The two processes are one. We are actually manufacturing the aha moment, just as, but instead of, the manufactured and projected fear-based fantasy.